when you think of salesperson, you think of like somebody that's usually really extroverted, like really smooth and persuasive, and without offending you, I don't think you have. I don't think that you were naturally that guy.
No, I absolutely was not. So the past 5 weeks, including that week of the 4th of July, it was 84 sales.
84 sales in 5 weeks. Did the math. It's averaging about 16.5 sales per week. All right, welcome to Little Jim Big Heart. We're here in the home studio, and I'm here with the head of sales at Gage Strength Training, our main location, Chris Heskett.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. So I'll give my background of Chris, and then he can give his background, because there's been a long, winding journey of our professional relationship. So Chris was he was my third employee ever at Gage back in, do you remember what year it was?
2014.
2014. So 2 years, about a year and a half into opening my original location. Really just, I call it like the Wild West back in the day.
Yeah.
And he was a trainer. He moved to the area. He was a great coach for 5 or 6 years at Gage. You left right about COVID time.
Right, 2021.
Yeah, right after COVID. So he was here 6+ years. From our perspective, got kind of fried from like the coaching. I mean, he was a session dog. Like, he was running a lot of sessions, but he was also our nutrition expert. We parted ways, kind of stayed, loosely in touch over the years, and eventually ran into him. He had accrued some sales experience using our CRM system, and so we needed a salesperson, so we brought him back. But why don't you detail your, side of the story?
Yeah, so like you said, I was a coach here at Gage for 6+ years, however long that was. And then, just like you said, I was really burnt out with coaching on the floor and everything. So we parted ways. I started a online fitness and nutrition coaching business. And then quickly realized after like 2 years in that I was not enjoying being a business owner. So I was like, let me try to go into more like ops. So I worked with 2 other online fitness companies more for ops, and just things never really took off. But during that whole time period, being a business owner and everything, I had to learn sales real quick. And I was actually just laid off from the one position. Just that business could not afford to keep me on any longer. So that's where you and I met up, and then ended up back here, full circle.
Yeah, and we met, and you were not a salesperson when you were with us.
No.
It was not, no. By any means a part of what you did with us. I mean, he ran some really good high ticket, like nutrition accountability coaching cohorts, but I always did the sales for Gage. And what was the extent of, besides like you got to eat what you kill, like running your own business, you were doing online coaching. Aside from that, what was the extent of like real sales experience that you were getting outside of, when you were on your own?
When I was on my own, I mean, in terms of like volume of sales, I was only doing a handful of sales calls per week. Maybe 2 to 3 calls per week at most, other than like if I was doing some crazy launches, in which case that was like all day for an entire week.
Right.
But that was kind of it. And so my time with sales was kind of split up among everything else of like content creation, fulfillment, and everything else, because it was basically me, and then I had an assistant coach. So
right.
Kind of doing everything, so I wasn't all in on sales.
Yeah, and I like to preface the backstory with this: is you were not a natural born killer.
No,
like, and you never. And I we'll talk about his numbers now and what he's doing now, but bringing you in, I knew that you were not like the guy that everybody was like, oh, that guy's going to go into sales. And there's a lot of people that are like that. I think I had a natural tendency to be, more not extroverted, because I'm not extroverted, I'm introverted. But I was always really into communication and sales, and always feel like I had kind of a natural knack for it. when you think of salesperson, you think of like somebody that's usually really extroverted, like really smooth and persuasive, and without offending you, I don't think you have. I don't think that you were naturally that guy.
No, I absolutely was not, and I still wouldn't consider myself a natural salesperson.
Yeah, but I think that's the most why I wanted to do this episode so much, because a lot of people listening, I think when they're ready to bring on a salesperson, I think they're always looking for like who's going to be like a killer closer. They might be looking for that natural born killer. And to be honest, a lot of those people, like, you're not going to get Alex Hormozi. Like, you're just not going to get an Alex Hormozi in your gym, because you can never pay him enough to, like, that. The reason he's Alex Hormozi is because he made $1 million a month doing fitness sales. Yeah. Like, you're just never going to be able to pay for that. But I think sales is truly a learnable skill, and we'll talk about what he's taken on since starting. How long have you been in it now?
I started back in December, so what is this month?
7 months. About 7 months. So he's been with us for 7 months. And, I would say from like a formal sales experience, like formal training, following scripts, overcoming objections, like slightly above a novice level, to like the numbers that we're going to explain to you now are exceptional. Like, it's pretty incredible the run that he's been on, and it doesn't seem like a fluke. When I say it doesn't seem like a fluke, no other conditions have changed. We're in a bad time of year for fitness sales. It's mid-July right now, and you've got all the numbers, but why don't you break down the numbers that you've been putting in a single location? Because a lot of people, you might be listening, know we have 7. We're opening our 8th location now. He just works at Gage Strength Training, so our single location. Today is, what's the date? July 10th or 11th?
Good question.
Thursday, I believe it's Thursday, July 11th. I asked him to scrape the numbers for the last 5 weeks. So including 4th of July week, which 4th of July was on a Friday. So we automatically lose kind of that Friday, Saturday for, most people aren't signing up for gyms on 4th of July. What are the numbers that we've been putting out?
So in the past 5 weeks, including that week of the 4th of July, it was 84 sales.
84 sales in 5 weeks. Did the math, it's averaging about 16.5 sales per week. And pretty fucking impressive. So nice job.
Thank you.
Starting out, we were not doing those numbers.
No, it wasn't even close.
Yeah, and the lead numbers have not significantly changed.
Nope.
So let's start from the beginning. You came in December.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you my background. So we really formally started this sales role. When I stepped away from sales, we had a woman that was doing sales, and she did a good job. She was, again, not a natural born salesperson, but she was able to handle the workload. What a lot of people don't understand is, like, when you reach a certain point or level of membership, you need to sell a certain number of members to outpace the natural attrition. We had 400, 500 clients. Guaranteed we're losing 15 people every single month on a good month. So we needed to sell 10 memberships every single week just to outpace, normal standard industry attrition. Not to mention sometimes we had bad months. So we kind of reached the ceiling on that individual. We really struggled to find somebody to fill that role after that. And I want to talk about some of the things that don't work when you're hiring salespeople and do work, or who you should look for. We had somebody that didn't pan out at all that we thought was going to. And then came across Chris, which, again, limited sales experience, no formal, like, he wasn't in IT sales, he wasn't in car sales. He came in, the goal was, what was the goal? 10 memberships a week?
10 a week, yeah.
So a lot of people hearing that, I know a lot of gyms up and coming, 10 memberships a week sounds like a lot. That's just what we needed to outpace attrition and to reach any of our membership goals. So we had kind of a high bar to start with. And how did you do those first couple, let's say 2 months?
It was rough. Even though it, came in December, which is just a horrible time. And that was rough, trying to figure things out. January trial bookings was pretty good, but things didn't really take off until February. So it was like the first 2 months were really rough in terms of sales. So it was a lot of missed numbers, a lot of every Monday it was like, great, we're going to talk about sales again.
Yeah.
The level 10 again. So it was probably 8 weeks of like,
it was hit or miss.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say you didn't hit the goal any week. I think you came in, you had a couple good weeks, but it seemed like it was kind of like, I had a good week. I don't know what I did, but
Yeah.
it was, so in the beginning, it was pretty hit or miss. I think it really wasn't until, so that was December, January, probably February or March when it seemed like things really started to click.
yeah.
Coming into that position, what were the things that, what were the processes that you were trying to follow?
So coming in, I had to like learn the current system and learn what like the previous sales guy was doing. Also, kind of like what you were telling me, learning all the systems because there's a lot of systems. I went from like my sales experience was very very basic of like I did the sales. There's no like fancy CRM or anything. It was just like sales. Put them into the coaching program. Everything is taken care of. And now it's like I need to send this report to coaches and remember to plug them in here and follow up here.
Right.
So I had to like there's a lot of learning with that, and then it was fixing the systems that just didn't work because it was an unorganized mess in that
Right.
pipeline. That was a mess.
Explain that, because
So
I think one thing that I think is especially for even but especially for the guys that are those natural born killers, salespeople, I think the pipeline management is one of the things that they really struggle with because they just want to be in front of people. They just want to talk to people. If you lose control of your pipeline and new leads are coming in and it's just your pipeline stacks up, I mean, when nobody was in charge of that, it was like we had like thousands of people in our pipeline, and it's just becomes completely impossible to manage that or have any real semblance of process there.
So I think there was 4 pipelines when I came in. It was lead, hot lead, which there were a lot of people who are not hot leads in that. Future follow-up and cold lead. I think that was it.
Yeah.
If memory serves me right.
So when you say you mean stages of
the pipeline. So there's the lead pipeline and the 4 stages. And there were just hundreds of names. In like I think like hot lead was like 80 names in there. It's like, when was this person contacted last? I would look. It's like the last time we reached out to them was like June. Like I wasn't even working here.
Yeah.
So that had to be cleaned up. And once that was cleaned up, it was much easier to like stay on top of who's actually a hot lead and who's just like been living here and not contacted.
Right. So going into, your week, knowing that, so we started with the goal is 10 memberships. So here's how our pipeline and our scorecard works. Our scorecards are calibrated every single quarter based on our membership goals. All right. So for those listening, I'm going to use really simple math here. If you have 100 members and for a quarter you want to get to 120 members, okay, you have 13 weeks in a quarter. You need to take the attrition rate. So let's say your attrition is 5%. You know that every single month you're going to lose 5 people, right? Guaranteed. So if you want to get to 120, you're going to lose 5 people in those 3 months. You're going to lose 15 people. In that 13 weeks, you now have to you have to net gain 20 people, which means you have to sell 35 memberships. So 35 divided by 13, I don't even know what that is, 1.2 per week. So the goal is like, what is that? Let's just say 3 memberships per week becomes the goal. I think that is what the goal is.
Yeah.
So that becomes your scorecard metric. All right. Going into the quarter is like you have to sell 3 membership per week if you want to be at 120, taking into account the number of people you're going to lose every month per quarter. Here's where it gets hairy. If you miss any of those weeks, or let's say you miss the first 2 weeks, now you have to be 35 memberships in an 11-week period. So now the average for what you have to close every week goes up. I always use the reference of baseball, right? If I want to bat 300 over the course of a season, I have to get 2 hits every single game. If I go a couple games with 0 hits, now I need to start getting 3 hits per game in order to, based on the averages, finish the season with a 300 average. It's the same thing with your quarterly sales. If you miss 4 weeks, now you got to sell like 1 to 2 more memberships every week just to average what you want. So all that to be said, his number, with our membership number growing, which thank you for helping with that.
Thanks.
The number of sales that he has had to make just to hit any of our membership numbers has grown. And not to mention, if 1 week is off, we have to account for that too. So right now, our scorecard metrics are 14
memberships.
So his goal is 14 memberships every single week to be sold. And like I said, the last 5 weeks, he's averaged 16.8 or something. So that's kind of how we need to calibrate that. So if you're listening, it's all a numbers game, right? You just have to understand those numbers, what your goal is, how many you're going to lose, and then do the math for how many you need to sell, divide by 13. That becomes your weekly goal for the quarter. With that being said, Chris, 14 memberships every single week. Going into a week, what is your game plan? How do you approach, what's your day-to-day process? What's your weekly process? How do you guarantee that you're going to hit this 14 sale per week number?
So I live on that sales activity tracker originally that you made. So what that will do is it tracks how many calls I do, pickup rate, if it's a win, direct close, etc. So we track all that data, but it's also good. If I have a bad day, bad pickup day, I can tell Devin and Jeff of hey, I did 60 calls, but nobody picked up the phone.
Well, let's talk about that tracker because that's probably very foreign to people. And this is, to speak candidly, one of the exact reasons that I wanted to bring you onto the team, because when you worked with us initially, you were so numbers focused. He was our nutrition guy. And you would execute on everything. Any task that we gave you, you would execute on. I knew exactly what we were going to get with bringing you on. I kind of mentioned wanting to talk about what you should look for and what not to look for in a salesperson. If you're new to bringing on a salesperson, you probably don't want somebody that's too experienced or have too many of their own preferences or ways they want to go about the work, because if you want them to follow your process, they need to be coachable enough to do so. So you need coachability is the number one thing, and that's what I knew you were incredibly coachable. So with that, I'm a very big data guy. I want to make sure that everything aligns with numbers and we're doing things from a data perspective. It wasn't enough for me to just be call as many people as you can and follow up with everybody X amount of times. So we built a daily sales activity tracker, because I knew, all right, if we need to sell 10 memberships, how many phone calls per week does that need? It was 100, right? It's all right, we need to be on 100 phone calls every single week. That just means outbound dials, not pre-scheduled calls. Out of those 100, probably 40% of them are going to answer the phone at all. And then 50% of those people are going to have a conversation. And then the goal is from a conversation, 70% of them are going to sign up. So that's the basis of that sales activity tracker. And now I know that I'm going to have to prepare one because people are going to be asking me for
I'm going to have to make a
one
copy
for themselves. But break down exactly what's on that sales activity tracker.
Yeah. Okay. So we have calls, which dial, whether it's a pickup, a conversation, a win, direct close, and then if they scheduled to call back, and if it's a junk lead. So we do track junk leads.
So let's explain. I'm going to share what this looks like, but so it's an Excel spreadsheet.
Yep.
What's the daily call goal that you set for yourself?
So currently for this quarter, what I need to do is 55 calls per day, unless it's a high pickup day.
Perfect. So he has 55, the numbers 1 through 55 in a spreadsheet. There's a check mark for called. There's a check for every one of these. There's a column. There's a check mark for pickup. There's a check mark for conversation.
Yes.
And there's a check mark for win. And a win is counted by a trial is booked or a sale is made on the phone.
Yeah.
So every call that he makes when he's dialing, he's clicking called. If they answer, he's going to click pickup. If they have a conversation, meaning it's like, hey, it's Chris from Gage Strength Training. Do you want to talk about membership? If they say yes, that's a conversation. And if they win, then there's a win. What this does is it allows, like if he does 55 calls, we can see what percentage of those picked up, what percentage of those had conversations, and what percentage of those conversations turned to wins. Because each of those, that funnel, that ratio is critical to scaling your sales efforts. So just to elaborate on like how it's actually structured, I'll share a template for it too. But how do you use that every day besides what I just explained?
So use that to structure of like, hey, like my goal every day is minimum 55 calls. If I have a really low day for whatever reason, like last week I was sick. So if those days are lower, I'm going to try to make up and do 60 calls or 65 calls on a day. And then we track trials booked on there, adult and athletes. So I can tell the team of like, hey, we have, booked 2 adults and 2 athletes today. Then we also track all the sales on that. So with sales, I will track whether it's an adult or an athlete sale, their name, what they sign up for, and then we break it up between membership and then other things. So other things being like we have our athlete speed camp, we have our jump start, so that's tracked separately. And then what kind of close it is. So short-term trial, long-term trial, is it a direct close? And then is it like a membership sale? And then I also track whether they came from a referral or if they were a regen play.
So because there's a few different systems that we're using. Sticking to this sales activity tracker, just in that tracker alone, is all that being tracked, or are you tracking that? Okay.
No, all that's being tracked on one sheet.
Okay.
And then below all the numbers, I have names for who to follow up with. So this is conversations of, hey, follow up with me on Thursday. Cool. I'll go down to the Thursday daily tracker and put them in for follow up. I have trials due to close. I'll have we're tracking what kind of junk leads we're getting right now, junk leads, and then daily tasks. So if I need to do a regen email, if I need to do like email coaches for athletes or anything, I'll put that on there. So all those daily tasks are there, which one helps keep me organized, but also helps me if I have a ton of stuff I need to do, and then the team throws other tasks on. Like, can I take this on? Yes, I can, but I need to move things around. Or no, I can't today, but I can on Wednesday.
Yeah. So all this is to be said is, again, a lot of our, when we think about bringing on a salesperson, is like, I need somebody that can just smooth talk anybody or close anybody, or they're super persuasive or influential. Our take has been very data focused, and being organized enough to use a tracker like that. I love the baseball analogy like I just used, because I want to go back and I want to be able to say, like, what is as a career salesperson, what is your close rate, right? What is your conversation to win rate? I don't know if you know it off the top of your head, but every week you know that.
Yeah.
You're like, we do daily sales huddles and stuff, but which I'll talk about that process and flow as well. But my goal is, just like if we were playing baseball and our goal was to bat 300, I want you to be like, hey, every time I get on the phone, I've got a 70% win rate with getting people on the phone. And then it just becomes a numbers game for how many calls it takes to get that many people on the phone. And that's what the tracker can do if you use it. So I think the most important point here is, whether it's this exact tracker, which is there's a lot of things there.
Yeah.
You need somebody that is organized and able to stay on top of those things.
Yeah.
So really good segue, because we have a very comprehensive communication flow.
Yeah.
So other things that affect your sales ability is the handoff or communication between coaches, because he's not a coach. He gets on the phone with somebody, he books a trial or he books a intro session. You make sure that coach is prepared for that. Explain the communication process where how do you handle the handoff?
Yep.
I did an episode on Slack, so if you guys are using Slack and you haven't listened, go back and listen to my episode on Slack. We use different systems that integrate Slack communication, but I would say that's a pretty critical part of your job.
Yeah.
Is connecting the prospect to the coaches and then the coaches' information back to you. So why don't you outline how that whole communication flow works?
Yeah, so after, whether it's a trial booked or a direct close on the phone, the next step is as soon as they're booked, basically I get an email to fill out a form that connects to Slack, but it's a printout for the coaches of...
So I want to clarify that. So I want to stay on that
Yeah.
for 1 second. When he books an appointment in our CRM, it triggers a email to go to you that says, what are the things that it says?
So the email will just say, hey, so-and-so booked an appointment, and then there's a link, and that link takes me to a page where it's
a form. It's a form in our CRM, Go High Level. What do you fill out on that form?
So it's going to be name, what kind of trial is booked, whether it's like a free 1 day, jumpstart, etc.
Yep.
What kind of membership they're looking for, or trial type, I should say. Then it's predicted trial end date, areas of concern, pain, shoulder, knee, low back, additional information for the coaches, which should always be filled out. If they have any exercise history. And then the last thing is how warm is this lead? So cold, warm, hot, or already closed.
And you're forgetting one thing, which is were they referred?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, if they were a referral. So he fills out a form. So he books the appointment. He's prompted to fill out an info form, which is what he just said, like who are they? What are they signing up for? When is the end date for the trial? If they were a referral, if they were, what member referred them? Injury history. And then all of that information, and I'll let you take over.
Yeah, so all that information gets sent over to the coaches. So they have a printout, and that goes into their trial folder. So when that person comes in, whether it's a direct close for their first session or it's a trial, that is in there so the coach can read, hey, Susie is coming in and she has a history of low back pain. Okay, we need to be careful with that. No heavy deadlifts today.
Yeah, and that gets posted we have a Slack channel for trials booked. So it's posted in the Slack channel, and it's also, we actually have a good system. It automatically prints it, doesn't it?
Automatically prints it.
So we have a system where Chris works remotely a lot of the time. When he submits this form, it gets automatically printed in our staff office. So like coaches will just come in and they'll see it in the printer and they'll pull it and be like, oh shit, we got this trial for this date, and they build the assessment folder for that client. So that was a new innovation with the automatic printing,
which is awesome.
Yeah,
it saves a ton of time. And then when the day before trials, so like today is Thursday.
Yep.
So I'm going to be posting probably after this podcast. I'll post all the trials coming in for Friday. So I split that up between here's our trials, and information is going to be the trial name, what time they're coming in, and who the coach is for that session, and any additional information. We give out protein, like a protein shake gift.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So just to stay on that a little bit further. So every single night, part of his closeout procedure is to basically do like, I'm done. He's done his day. Here's trials for tomorrow. So his closeout is, hey, Brandon, you've got a trial at 9 a.m. It's this person. Tyler, these are coaches' names. Tyler, you've got a trial at this time for, in this person. Again, any super relevant information, you might add it, but it's already been provided.
Yeah. Yeah, so the coaches, especially the 5:30 a.m., they just have to pull open Slack. Oh, I have a trial. Right. There's no surprises of like going through their session of like, who's this person? What? It's like they knew that. So I usually posted like 3:30. They know it the day before like the evening block of sessions. Hey, I have a trial tomorrow.
Right.
And then I'll update if there's any updates to trials or anything. And then I've split up between here's trials and here's people who are direct closes coming in their first session.
Yeah, and he mentioned the Shaker Cup thing. So one of his key metrics is the trial or appointment show rate. And one of the ways that we do that is, I've talked about this a long time ago on a podcast, but every trial that gets booked, we send them a photo of a shaker cup with their name, with a name tag on it. So the name, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to explain, like, there's a few tactics here. A big one is reciprocity, and just the feeling that we invested in this client before they came in by showing them that, hey, we put your name on this shaker cup. It is now yours. And we send them a text that says, with the photo of the shaker cup with the name tag on it, and we say, hey, excited to see you. We've got a gift for you. Quick question: what flavor protein would you prefer, vanilla or chocolate? The reason we ask that is because it elicits a response, and just them responding and the action of them responding and engaging with us sinks their heels even deeper in their commitment to showing up. And I think from doing that, along with our sales process, which if you haven't listened, I have a whole episode on our sales process, that has drastically improved our client. What's our average show rate?
We're probably 80%.
80% appointment show rate. And again, this is like 18 appointments a week, essentially, to close 14 sales. So those numbers are stupid. So that's, he does that end of day recap where he sends a message to all the coaches about what trials are coming in tomorrow. That makes sure that the coaches are prepared. What's next?
So from there, the actual trial happens. And then we have a form that coaches fill out on Slack. So after their block of sessions are done, they fill out, here's the trial, here's any relevant information for sales, here's what I recommended for them. Now, I probably already had this conversation of what kind of membership they're going to be moving forward with, but that can solidify, hey, are they going to do 2 times a week or 3 times a week? And once I get that, if I haven't already heard back from the trial, which a lot of times I already have, I'm going to then give them a phone call. And if it's an evening trial, I will give them a call first thing in the morning. Or if it's a morning trial, it's basically as soon as possible. As soon as the day gets started, I'm going to give them a call.
Yeah, so the most important thing here is the way that our system is set up is 10 minutes into that trial or first appointment, because we don't always just do a free trial. Sometimes they're paid, sometimes they're already a member and it's their first session. It's about 10 minutes into that time. So if somebody comes in for a 4:30 time, a message goes out in Slack, right? To the coach in the coaches channel to fill out the trial form.
I don't think they're prompted.
So
at least from what I've seen.
True. We used to do a prompt.
Yeah.
So the coaches, after every new appointment that comes in, the coach that ran that session will fill out a form that basically says, did they show? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Right? Did they show up? Yes or no? If yes, they're tasked with answering, like, what happened? Like, any injuries, any experience, things that are worth noting, and did they sign up or not? Like, because we encourage our coaches to, like, have a closing conversation where it's like, hey, when are you coming in next? Or do you think you're going to sign up, and give kind of a prescriptive close? So that information goes back to Chris. So he can either, like, if somebody signs up, it's just like, hey, send them the membership agreement. If they had a bad experience or they no-showed, now Chris gets that information right away. So he can reach out to the prospect and either rebook them or be like, hey, what happened? I heard X, Y, and Z happened. We'd love to make it up to you. So I think a critical missing link with a lot of people that are building a sales role is, like, the handoff between the coaches and the salesperson, the communication back and forth. Like, sometimes it's too much of a handoff where sales sets the appointment and then leaves, which there's a role for that. I mean, we had that in our Engage locations. But if you have one person internally, they should really be hands-on for the whole sales process. So the coach is communicating back to sales about what happened is really important. Is there anything else in the process, like communication, how you kind of handle that front to back communication process?
I'd say the only thing that might be different than the average sales, if you think salesperson, is I come from, like, when I do discovery and everything, I come from like a coaching background. So I treat it more like I'm talking to a person who's coming in for, like, I'm a coach, like I was a coach for most of my career before I went to sales. So I'm talking to someone and almost like prescribing them what they need versus the typical like sales conversation. So I'd say that gives the coaches a lot of ammunition to
Right.
give them like a really good trial. And then also on the phone call, I can usually answer most questions. If things start to get technical, I can just go in and be like, hey, yeah, like we're going to do mostly free weight training. Here's kind of how our programming is structured and all this stuff. And it's not like, I'm not a coach. I have no idea how they program. I just like to work out.
Yeah, I mean, the sales terminology for that is
Yeah.
just your salesperson having a really high product knowledge. Again, if you're bringing somebody outside in, I wouldn't worry too much about that. I think it's just another good asset that you have. I will say when we first brought you on, we had another element of the process where an appointment would get booked with a prospect. They would get emailed a pre-assessment form. Yeah, it was like it was a waiver, but it was also like, what are your goals? What injuries do you have? What have you done in the past? We had like a mediocre completion rate for that.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it was out of our control whether our coaches were going to be prepared for the trial. Meaning, if that person never filled out that assessment form, which was like, took a good 5 minutes to fill it out if they did it well. If they didn't fill it out, the coaches wouldn't have any background info. So we were like, you know what? Let's take that form and let's just make that part of the sales process. So, not only does Chris do discovery where he's learning their goals, he's qualifying them on the price, he's booking the appointment, he's sometimes closing the sale on the phone, but he's also like, hey, any injuries we need to know about, anything that we need to anything we need to know about.
Yeah.
And he's completing that form as part of that. So, something you might want to consider is if there are redundancies, if there are friction points, if there are aspects of the sales process that you don't have control over, meaning like you send a form out and you just hope that it gets filled out, try to take control over those things as much as possible.
Yeah.
I don't want to go too deep into before we talk about the actual sales conversation process, what is your day-to-day workflow? So you're using the activity tracker, but how do you direct your efforts when it comes to like you log into the CRM? What are you doing to hit that 14, 16 sale per week number?
So best pickup times are going to be morning and evening time. So after our sales huddle, which is 8:30 to 8:45 in the morning.
We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Is clear out text messages and emails and then hit the phones as soon as possible. So call all new leads, call the hottest leads, like your priority people. So I focus who is going to book a trial or pay us money. That's the main focus.
So how do you find them? What I mean is like going in, like what is your actual, what avenue do you go down to find those people and connect with them?
So this is going to be in the activity tracker follow-ups. So people who've said, hey, can't talk today. Can you call me 10 o'clock on Tuesday? Sure. It's going to be hot lead pipeline. It's going to be new leads. And then it's going to be trials that need to be converted. So those are going to be the people who you hit ASAP. That's the first block. And then after that, it's people who have cooled off a little bit. So these are unresponded leads who are maybe 3-4 days old, that 1 week pipeline. That's going to be the next avenue. And then it's the 2 week pipeline. And then by that point, we're starting to get around lunchtime. And usually lunchtime, we start to get some new leads coming in from ads and stuff because people are clicking stuff on their lunch break. Follow up with those people ASAP. There's a break middle of the day. And I say break as in it's generally not a great pickup time. It's a pretty slow time for sales in general. So that's a good time to do any like regen, joint venture activity, follow up with like coaching, emailing coaches. If you work with athletes, that's a good time for that. And then from 3:30 to the end of the day, good call time. So in the morning, my focus is either booking trials, closing people, or scheduling appointments for the evening, because you'll get a lot of pickups of like, hey, I'm at work, I can't call now, I'm very interested, can you call me after 4? Cool, 4 o'clock, so I will schedule them on for 4. So that'll be the evening time of a lot of calling a lot of the new leads the second time for the day, but then following up with anyone who's scheduled appointments.
Yeah, so that's a great like hour by hour basically workflow. And I think what's important is it covers like your immediate low hanging fruit, which are the people in your inbox, and then it's like, all right, hot leads that have replied maybe hours ago or yesterday. But it also includes, what's important is like potential joint venture opportunities. So he has blocked time where he's hitting local organizations or coaches of teams and just putting feelers out there. In the sales world, they call that prospecting. So building in prospecting time is filling the future pipeline. So that's awesome. Anything else? Like, again, going into, I would call that like your ring the register workflow is like, this is exactly the process that I follow every single day. And I like what you said, like usually by like 1 o'clock, all the messages you sent out, the responses are trickling in. So now you've got a full response tab that you can then go back and like, it's just a cycle that keeps repeating. Is there anything else regarding that like is a part of your process, or you got to drum up some business ASAP, like gun to your head, you've got to get those sales? What are you doing?
Well, I would say I start more like 7 in the morning of like, I might not respond. I don't really respond before 8 a.m. Unless someone's like really texting a lot.
It's illegal to do that too.
Yeah,
so I think the telecom, FTC regulations, it's like 8 a.m. to
8 to 8.
8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So just
so no calls, text messaging. So only people who are like really hot for a text messaging. But I will like try to plan out of like, who am I going to respond to first? Who am I hitting up for a call right away? I will do that early in the morning. And then at night, I'll just like watch for responses come in, and I'll respond to very hot leads, or I'll kind of like put them into the pipeline of like order of like, this lead came in, I don't need to respond right now. It's like 7:30 at night. I'm with my kids. I'll hit that up tomorrow morning. The other thing we do is we send out videos to the athlete trials.
Oh yeah.
So the coaches will send me the video of like, when the athlete trial comes in, we send it to the parents. It's a quick 1 to 2 minute video. I just lie and say it's from the coach. Hey, it's Coach Brandon. It's Coach Dylan. So I send those out around 7 o'clock.
Just for context. Yeah. So athlete trial comes in. We'll do somewhat of an assessment with the kid. The coach will do it, obviously. And they'll do a video being like, hey, Mr. and Mrs. whatever, we worked with your son. I think with their sport being this is what we talked about. This is what we worked on. We recommend them doing 3 days a week training. Let us know what you think. It's like a 1 to 2 minute little like breakdown of the assessment, since most parents aren't in the gym for that.
Yeah. So that gets sent out in the evenings when we have athlete trials. Other than that, for drumming up activity like sales need to happen now, that's going to be, we have a big cold lead pipeline. We have a huge termination list. And then we have a bunch of tags in our CRM. So I will go through and just hit those up hard. And what I've learned is do the drip method. Do not send out 300 text messages in an hour through automation. You will get flagged as spam, and you will really mess up your sales. So don't do that.
So drip out, how many would you drip out at a time?
So it depends on what your marketing's doing. So if you have a marketing person, so I know Juliana, who does our marketing, sends out about 50 an hour. So I'll do less than that. I'll do like half. I'll do like 25. If she's not doing text messages, I'll do 50 an hour. But it seems like that 50 is like the mark. So I'll a lot of times if I think text messages are going out, I'll just play it safe, 25, 30 per hour.
Yeah.
And just let that drip out over a period of time. So you want to plan that out. Like if you need sales on a Friday and you need to do that, you better do that in the morning, because it's going to be too late. You can't send out and be like, okay, well, it's 1 p.m. I need my sales this evening. Let me just send out 500 text messages. You're probably going to get 0 sales instead of 1 sale.
Right.
So. plan that out. Like, know your stuff ahead of time. If you need to drum up activity for Thursday and Friday, you should have that dripping out Wednesday evening into Thursday and Friday.
Got it. So you're hitting them from all angles.
Yeah. And referrals. I would say referrals the other thing.
So the
We
thing I was
totally
gonna
missed
ask
that.
is reactivation and referrals. So what's your approach with that?
Reactivation's been a little bit hit or miss. What seems to work really well is a paid trial versus a free welcome back. It's like a low ticket paid. I don't know what the psychology is behind it.
Yeah, but $5 for $25, 5 sessions for $25, 21 for 21.
Even $100 for your first month. That seems to do better with regen than like, hey, get a free 2 weeks back or free 30 days. Like, people, free 30 days does worse than $100 for 30 days.
That's funny.
So I've moved a lot of regen to that messaging. We'll still do like free weeks here and there so people don't get banner blindness. But referrals with athletes has been awesome. And currently we're doing a challenge with the coaches to do referrals. And in the 3 weeks, I think we're at 10 membership sales.
Yeah, let's not give away too many secrets on that. I'll future another episode on that.
But referrals should definitely be part of the sales process.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. We're just doing a thing with the coaches with referral asks. But I think a good place to move the conversation. I want to cover every aspect of what you're doing because I think it's extraordinary. How do you set up the pipeline in the CRM? Because the activity tracker, you're doing a lot there, but what does the pipeline setup look like? And I'll also mention we are averaging. How many leads are we getting per week on average?
About 60.
So we're getting 60 leads a week. It's a lot of movement in the pipeline every single week. We're also getting how many terminations a week?
Average is about 7 right now.
So 7, that's where we want to be from a company standpoint. 60 leads a week. How does the pipeline need to look, and what are you doing in there to keep it organized?
So the pipeline has a bunch of different stages. So we have new leads. So someone who's, I forget if it's 48 hours or 72 hours, but brand new lead, you need to hit these people up ASAP. Then we have our hot lead pipeline. So these are responded leads. So someone raises their hand, says, I'm interested in whatever was sent out for marketing. We have 1 week lead. So this is someone who's been in the pipeline for somewhere 2 to 3 days to 7 days, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Then we have future follow-up. So anyone who's like, hey, not interested right now, follow up with me in 4 weeks. They get sent over there. And then we have our cold lead. So anyone who's over 21 days old in the pipeline goes to the cold lead pipeline. So to keep that organized, one, we have automation now.
Yeah, so every week that moves the lead through the week 1, week 2, week 3 pipeline.
Yeah. So the mistake I made is automations aren't perfect. So you will need to go and still do some manual action of moving people around, depending on what happened, if when the lead came in, if it didn't come in the proper way or something. I don't know what happens, but sometimes they don't get moved. So there's still some manual action that will always have to happen. Don't just rely on automation. But you will call basically it's like from one to the other. So new leads, first thing, hot leads.
And hot lead is when they actually reply to any of our follow-ups. So they get moved to hot lead if they reply to a text, email, if they answer the phone. So, it's an important distinction. It doesn't automatically move them there ever. That is like when they reply to a message.
Yeah. So hot lead is someone who has responded positively to something. And then eventually they go into cold lead if they don't convert, or you mark them as lost. And that's kind of how you clean things up. So we have a massive list of the cold lead, which eventually, if they get marked D&D or they eventually say, hey, not interested, they get marked as lost. But that's a huge pipeline of, I usually hit once a week, but if I need to hit that up more, I hit that up more.
It's all by necessity, right?
Yeah.
It's like if we're not getting leads and you're just sitting there, like you don't wait for stuff to come to you. Like you go fucking get people engaged. So he's like, shit, if leads dried up and responses aren't happening, is like he's going to hit the cold lead people and text, email, call, whatever it takes to get them to raise their hand and say, hey, yeah, I might be interested.
Yeah. And so with the new lead, you will call those people 2 to 3 times per day for the first like 2 to 3 days. And then once they move to like the 1 week, you call them once per day. And at 2 weeks, you call them like every other day. And the reason for that is you don't want to do what me and the Engage team did in March of you get flagged as spam when leads aren't responding. So if you call someone too many times, I think it's like 7 times in a week it's 7 or 10.
I think it's 10.
10
so
times.
if you call somebody 10 times in a week, you can get flagged as spam. The most important thing to consider, and I've learned this, we invested in a whole other system called Dialer.io that promised to have better pickup rates. It didn't end up working out very well. But what I learned throughout that experience was you want to avoid looking like a spam dialer. So like no human beings dial somebody 3 times in a row or 5 times in a day. Only spam dialing systems do that. So if you're a telecom system, you look at the dialing behavior. So our phone number, it's going to look at our dialing behavior, and it might look at like, hey, this phone has dialed 400 people. Like that's not normal human being dialing behavior. That is spam behavior. So again, even if you are not a robot and you are connecting with prospects, the telecom system is purely looking at behavior. So what is the system? It's twice on the first day.
You can do up to 3 times on day 1.
And you double dials or single dials?
No, single dials. Double dialing is another thing that gets you flagged. So no double dials. Single dial in the morning, single dial in the evening. First dial is a voicemail.
Okay.
So always a voicemail. I don't leave a voicemail on the second dial. It's weird. Like some people will call you back if they see like a missed call but no voicemail. I'm the opposite. If you call me and you don't leave a voicemail, I assume it's not important. So I always leave a voicemail every like couple of days. I don't do it every day, especially if we're getting lots of leads. But if leads start drying up, I will use more voicemails. You also just don't want to sound like you're on repeat all the time.
Yeah.
So, but voicemail like every other day, I will do.
So avoiding double dialing as much as possible. That's the call cadence. What else when it comes to lead follow-up and pipeline management?
So I do less text messaging now. I do a lot more calls than text. It used to be call and text every single time. I've cut back a little bit on text, and I think it's reduced how often we get flagged as spam. And sales are still coming in. So it's like, okay.
More than ever.
Right. So sales are still coming in. So I do less text messaging. We have automation for text. So we have that set up to be kind of like every other day is the automation, I think now. It used to be every day for the first week. So we're doing less text message. But I call someone every single day for the first week. And then once they go to week 2, it's more like every other. And this is someone who's not responded. And week 2 is like every other day. Now, if somebody's a hot lead, they're responding back and forth. You're trying to get them up. You get them on the phone and everything. Everything changes now, and now you can respond to them more. You can do a set of follow-up date and everything. But those leads that are not responded, you don't want to be getting flagged as spam because it'll mess everything up.
All right, cool. So you mentioned like hitting leads as soon as possible. How are you guaranteeing your speed to lead?
So we have a system where when a lead comes in, I get a call. Now I rarely pick up my phone and do it, but it comes to my phone and says, hey, like you have a new lead at Gage. I personally don't like doing phone calls over my phone if I can avoid it.
Cell phone.
Yeah, my cell phone. I prefer using my laptop.
Why?
I can take notes better. And because there's so many moving parts, there's less chance of me making a mistake. Now, if I have to, but I will call them from my laptop if that's available, and I will get them set up from that. I also get email notification. New lead pops in. So I will go and see who the new lead is, and I believe we set the goal of like speed to lead needs to be about 10 minutes.
Yeah, the goal is under 10 minutes.
Yeah.
All the data shows the lower the speed to lead, the more likely you are to close. So we use a system called a call connect. So if you use the high level CRM, basically anytime a lead comes in, it will call your cell phone, and what's called a whisper message pops up that says, you have a new lead, press 1 to connect. And if you press 1, it will call that lead. It's funny, it's the first time I'm hearing both my sales guys prefer not to do calls from their phones, and it totally makes sense. It negates the need for the call connect. Yeah. But if you are on the go, or if you are like, you just need to take it from your phone, it is helpful. But a lot of people are like, man, how do you guarantee your speed to lead? It literally calls your cell phone the second a lead comes in. So that's a great feature if you don't have maybe all of the systems that we do and you need to be on your laptop to take notes and, reference things. But the most important thing is you're being notified the second a lead comes in, and you can just call them right away.
Yeah, I've used it quite a few times because it's literally, like you said, press any button to call this lead, boop, and starts ringing. And then you can just leave a voicemail if they don't pick up.
Yeah, and that's right when the lead opt in. So it's like the perfect system for connecting with leads right away. Yeah, so that guarantees your speed to lead.
Yeah.
And your goal is obviously just as fast as fucking possible.
Yeah.
Another really good thing to note is what does your setup look like? Because again, we're tracking the sales activity tracker. You're in the CRM. You're using MindBody to book the appointment. What is your like? You've got a thing. You've got a whole setup.
I have a setup. So when I'm in the office, I have 2 screens. But when my home office is 3 screens. So I will have our CRM up on one. I will have the sales script, MindBody, and email up on another screen. And then the other screen is going to be the call connect. If I'm just on 2 screens, it is going to be CRM here. That's the most important thing. And then everything else on the other screen.
In different tabs or whatever.
In different tabs, yeah.
And then you have like a cool little, like, it's like your laptop, and then it just like folds off the side of your laptop, right?
No, I don't have
okay.
that.
Maybe
no.
somebody else had that.
I've seen those, and they look. I've thought about getting it, but actually, my one screen is just like an old TV. It's like a big like old TV I have. But yeah, so that's how I can stay organized. Because other than that, the other it's like the mental fatigue of like clicking and keeping organized of all your tabs. Like if you can have at least 2 screens. It works so easy. And the thing I have is like a travel screen. So I think it was like $70. It's not super expensive. You can get it off of Amazon. And so you can just attach it to your laptop. Here's your second screen with, you can put notes in there. You can have MindBody. So like when I'm on the call with somebody on CRM, I'm taking notes in CRM. They're like, hey, do you have any availability for 5:30 a.m.? I can look over a MindBody. Yes, I can book you for Tuesday at 5:30 a.m. Does that work for your schedule? Yes. And there's no like, hold on, let me find it. It just makes the sales process smooth.
Yeah. So I want to make sure we touched on that, because not your average just trainer that does sales. And the mistake a lot of people make, and what I want to emphasize is, again, you're cranking out 14 to 18 sales per week. A trainer that is just dabbling in sales will never touch that. All right, they'll never touch 10 sales per week. And this might not be for you. This might not be for where you're at in your business. This might not be way more than you possibly need. You might still be a gym owner doing all your own sales. But what's important to know is the level of professionalism, the level of structure, the level of organization, the level of like real sales careerness, Brent's not even a word, you bring to this role is going to dictate the results that you get. If you have just a trainer that's like ripping sales calls on their cell phone between sessions, they're going to close 5 sales a week. But if you invest and you want to grow your fitness program, and you invest in a real salesperson, buy the shit, right? They're going to have a shitty laptop. They're going to not have like a professional mic, or they're not going to have a headset. Buy it for them. Invest in that stuff for you. Like if, we, in previous roles before Chris, if we had a salesperson that was like, oh, my laptop's just super slow, I'm going to buy them a new fucking laptop. It is too important to have a working fucking laptop. But that was what you would get when it was like, they're just a trainer that's doing sales instead of a salesperson that is in fitness. That's the critical distinction that I would encourage you guys to look at, is like, don't look for like a really smooth talking trainer. Look for a salesperson that wants to be in fitness. And the more you invest in that and the more you make this a real position, the better results you're going to get. And we've seen that with Chris. You know, again, he has grown into what he has. He was not a killer from day one. He's learned a process, which we didn't talk much about. I didn't want to spend this talking about the conversation flow. I have a whole podcast about that, but we measure that too.
Yeah.
You know, I have a call recording scorecard that we listen to calls, and he's scored on every aspect of the sales process. And shocker, when he scores low, the show rate is bad and he doesn't have a good sales week. So it's the more you can bring to this role, the better results you're going to get. And you know, we're only getting better. So I'm really excited for where this kind of whole position goes. Let's wrap up with what advice. So most of my people, a lot of people listening to this, if there's anybody, are gym owners themselves. They're trying to grow their gyms or trying to scale. Maybe they have a team, maybe not. What advice would you give somebody to hit that maybe 10 sale per week or 15 sale per week on a consistent basis? Like, if you had to summarize what you do and like the most critical elements, what are you going to say?
Predictable sales process of go listen to that podcast that you've already done.
And that's the, like, when you get somebody on the phone, the process, the flow that you follow to close a sale. Yeah.
Predictable process, be organized.
How organized?
Like, you don't need to be perfect, but you should be able to find your numbers quickly. So I have it set up to, like, when we're on the meeting, like if we're on our Monday level 10 or we're on our Thursday red flag, like I messed up the number this morning and it was just there. Oh, I've put in the wrong revenue number. Here's the actual revenue number. You should be able to quickly grab your numbers.
You should know your numbers.
Yeah.
Know your numbers. Take pride in your numbers.
Yeah. Know your numbers. And then make your schedule, but also make it as easy as possible. Like, don't try to like overcomplicate things or try to, like, I experiment with like sending out videos and stuff. Just make it easy. And then once the process starts working, then you can tinker with it. But try to find a process that works. And that's just going to be like, follow a process, get your numbers, and then go from there. And so, a lot of times less is more.
Stay on that a little bit, because we've talked about this in the past. Like, I think what you're saying is don't just throw shit at a wall all the time. Like, don't just be like, today I'm going to try video messages or send memes to people. Like, choose one thing, do it 50 times, measure the results, and then decide if you want to change it or not. But don't go into every day randomly, like...
Yeah, I got so on that idea. So I got we have a sales coach that I work with, and it's like, hey, like, try this out, because we were having really low pickup rates. So I brought it up to Devin in one of our morning huddles. He's like, great, I've done that. It didn't work. But experiment, track it this week. So I tracked it. It did not work for a week. It's like, took me 4 times as long to send out one message, because I'm doing like a 1-minute video, then needing it to upload. So I was like, you know what? We're getting rid of this, because it didn't help.
Trade-offs with all that stuff.
Yeah, maybe it works in the future, but
yeah. But the most, and I tried it as much as possible, unless I have a definitive, like, that shit will not work. My response is usually like, try it, make sure you track it, and we'll see.
Yep. And that's what I did. It's like, yeah, the numbers speak for itself. It did not work.
Yeah. Any other advice that you would give a rookie salesperson or somebody that wants to level up?
2 things that have helped me with the, like, discovery, because discovery is where you get like all your ammunition for actual sales. I've switched to, does a person want to go fast or want to go slow? So we have a jump start, which is like throwing someone into the fire. Like, hey, like, we're going to throw like everything at this person on day 1 almost. And then our regular program is our go slow, which will still get great results. But if someone's like, hey, like, I want to lose weight immediately. I've been, I'm really dedicated. I'm super motivated. It's like, put that person into the go fast.
And that's typically higher priced.
So yeah, make a little bit more money. Sales, make a little bit more commission. Or the go slow, it's like, if you're like marketing the Jumpstart, you can go in like, hey, like, I don't think this program would be a good fit for you because we're kind of like throwing everything in. They're like, yeah, I don't want that. Great. So we just have our regular membership and here's what we're going to do. They're like, that sounds like exactly what I'm looking for. Awesome. Let's get you signed up for that. And a lot of times that can lead to direct close on the phone.
Right.
So I'd say that. And then if you're working with athletes, the game changer that's really helped me is asking the parents what they want the kids to come away with. Because a lot of times you'll spend all of discovery. Hey, Johnny wants to improve his soccer game. He needs to get faster. He needs to be able to cut more. He has this knee injury. And we're talking about a bunch of stuff and you're talking with the mom. And then you get to the end and I'll ask this question. Like, hey, great. We talked about Johnny. But Karen, what do you want little Johnny to take away from training? She's like, I really just want him to develop lifelong healthy habits. I want him to eat better. And you're like, so if you go in and like start pitching of like, we're going to do all these things with him, a lot of times there was disconnects. So now I'll be like, okay, great. So we're going to do all these things to help improve his soccer game, but we're also going to talk nutrition and, tell him about the importance of eating vegetables. And she's like, oh my God, I can't get him to eat vegetables. Can you guys?
Yeah.
I don't know if we can, but I'm going to sell it like we can.
Yeah.
So that's been a big game changer because it gives you the ammo to sell the parent on the training, even though they're not going to be participating. They're the ones footing the bill, though.
Yeah. I'll end with one thing I said I was going to mention is our daily sales huddles. So the one thing that I've learned over the years is if you've got big goals, the more often you pulse, the faster you're going to get there. So the reason for that is human nature is the more often you stop and reset. So let me say this. The more often you pulse, the faster you will go. Human nature is to ramp up towards the end of a deadline. So if you just do a weekly meeting or a monthly meeting, please God, tell me people are not doing monthly meetings. But if you're doing a weekly meeting, you're going to set your goals in the meeting. Let's say it's on a Monday. And usually effort peters out for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then when they're like, oh shit, all my metrics and all my shit is due on Monday, they're going to like have a little flurry of activity to hit their shit on Monday. If you did it twice a week, like Monday and Thursday, it's like on Wednesday, you're going to get a flurry of activity. And then on Friday, you're going to get a flurry of activity. So we've been doing a morning 10-minute sales huddle. Sales is too critical to wait once a week, right? If things are off track, I don't want to wait till Monday or the next week to know about it. So every single day at 8:30 in the morning, we do a call where it's on Slack. We use the Slack huddle function, which I love. We have a Slack form that shows, what do you fill out in that form?
Calls made, pickups, connections, wins, trials booked, direct closes, junk leads, goal for the day.
And so what is your daily... So again, we have our weekly goal, which is 14 sales. That equates to how many sales per day?
So that's going to roughly be 3-ish sales per day.
3 sales per day. So if we're on Monday, we're like, all right, we usually do a little role play. We just check in with everybody. On Tuesday, if he didn't sell 3 sales memberships on Monday, we're off track.
Yep.
So now it's like, oh shit, we're making a micro adjustment. It's like, hey, let's set a little bit. Now he's got to do more calls on Tuesday than Monday to equate for that effort. So that's our daily huddle. I think if you talk to anybody in like a real sales organization or a fast growth organization, if you're doing a launch for a gym, if you just want to reach a really big goal, the more often that you pulse, the more often that you meet and look up at the scoreboard, sports analogy, right? If you're playing basketball and you look up at the scoreboard and you're like, oh fuck, we're down 5 points with 30 seconds left, you adjust your effort to win the game. So the more often you look up, the more often you can recalibrate your effort, and that's the value of a daily huddle. Don't do this with every department. Only do this if you've got a real salesperson in place, or else you'll drive people crazy. But that's kind of how we do that. The other meeting that we have is our weekly, we call it a red flag. All leadership team members go onto our weekly red flag. It's on Thursday mornings, and it's our halftime.
Yeah.
It's our weekly halftime. And we say like, are we halfway to all of our weekly goals? So if our goal is 14 sales, if by Thursday morning we have not made seven sales, right? 7 sales, we have to adjust our effort and recalibrate to reach the Monday goal. That's where we get marketing. We're like, all right, marketing, what can we fire out there? Sales, what can we level up? Coaches, what can we do referral wise? So that's the meeting pulse that we follow. Is we do our weekly level 10, which is our leadership team meeting. We do our weekly red flag, which is a 10-15 minute like halftime speech. We can rally the troops, and then we do our short 10 to 15 minute sales huddle every single day. A lot of times we'll just do some role play, we'll talk scenarios, we'll troubleshoot some really small stuff. But the whole goal is just encouraging your people to look at the scoreboard and say, are we on track? Great. If not, how do we level up our effort to win the game? All right. Chris, any final thoughts?
I think no.
Covered a hell of a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Thank you guys for listening. If you have questions, Chris, I don't want him bogged down with a bunch of your questions because I need him to sell memberships. But if anybody did want to reach out, how could they connect with you?
Probably Instagram's the best way. So it's still my coach Instagram handle. So at Coach Chris Heskett. That would be the best way to find me.
Yeah, but really, email me. Maybe I can act as a buffer because I want him focused on selling memberships. But thank you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.